Yes, so this is a continuation of I strongly suspect a cousin who is in the USA now. I wonder if I'm going to say this properly or how much strength I would have to continue. I've read that psychopaths don't feel guilty, but by looking at my late aunt, going back in retrospect, she didn't feel guilty a bit. Sorry, excuse me. Sorry, I'm so shocked. I crack up. She was so bold. But, sorry, her husband believed me when I said that what you have done in London and you are cursing my father. My father actually had told her in London, if you love this man, marry him and leave your husband. But she wanted to have the cake and eat it too. She told my father was very gentle with her. It was an advice given to her. But she said that my husband will not give me my children. Then in 1976, 75, she already had two sons who were back in Karachi with her husband while she was in working in Saudi Airlines. Yes, she was married, but they took her, whether she lied to them, the Saudi Airlines, or they just took her for some reason, that she was beautiful or something. So I was feeling guilty later on that it's come out, and I was told that there has been disturbance in the house, and her husband confiscated her passport and stopped her from working in the Saudi Airlines later. But there and then when I told her, her husband going back home had asked her to leave the car, get out of the car in the middle of the way to their home. So she came back once and told me that, my husband was very angry and had asked me to leave the car, get out of the car. But then he took her back in. So my point here is that I used to feel guilty and pray for peace in their home. But recently the force or God or someone is telling me that I shouldn't be feeling an ounce of guilt, and I should not have felt any guilt, because the truth, as God willed, had come out through me for her betrayed husband to know. And in my previous video, I've said why I've explained why I strongly suspect this cousin and my fears. And this is another reason why I want to protect, or I should protect my Christian friends also. Because I strongly suspect him to be harming my Christian friends. He's one involved in this too, because he was asked to leave from the parish church, and their ego is very high, and they know no shame. And they are very, very vindictive, very wicked when it comes to taking revenge. And they don't at all ever have seen their mistakes They only blame other people very much. And I've seen this recently through the messages on Facebook I sent this cousin. And they lie through their teeth in front of people, and they don't care. They are very bold. Being courageous is entirely different. Being bold in harming and blaming others. I mean, I can understand that they are very, very weak and cowards. So I had to make a page, or it's a group on Facebook protecting the parish, Christian parish, that he was thrown out of, the church mass. And recently there's been it's become very common to get Christians on blasphemy at the drop of the hat. I know that during this blasphemy law was introduced during the time of General Ziaul Haq, but it wasn't so widespread and common to persecute Christians or trap them into this blasphemy law. But especially when the air blue crash happened when I was in Karachi, I got really scared for my Christian friends. You will not believe this. Where's the connection? The connection about Air Blue is my Christian friend who worked for Air Blue at that time. Why the Gulf Air crash? Because my father is from the Arab world and traveled a lot during those years. I was in Karachi American School, and it was very sad. One of my Pakistani friends' father was on this Gulf Air in 1983, and we were there for the morning. But you would say that the Abu Nadal or one of the Palestinian terrorist group got this Gulf Air, but the passenger from Karachi who passed the bomb or something and checked in and checked out his luggage. Checked in his luggage and checked out himself or herself. And yes, I forgot to say that the meningitis case, I had this really very bad high fever. I couldn't move, and I was very scared that time in London. The flyers had come to our hostel about meningitis. And so I called out to my mother twice, saying, Amma, Amma, without calling her. I couldn't even get up to have my medication, like fever, for the fever and the neck pain. So when I went back to Karachi, my mother asked me if I had called out to her twice. And I just mumbled to myself, no, but I didn't want to tell her that I was in very high fever. Actually, on the road going to college from my hostel, I thought on the main road of Cromwell Road in a black cab, I had seen this cousin of mine. At that time, he had long hair in a ponytail, and he had a beard and a mustache. So before that, surprisingly, the friend I had made in St. Joseph's College had become an air hostess in British Airways, and one of her friend was a relative of my cousin's friend. They had come to my college party, so they knew where my college was. And my cousin was in Karachi when I was in London, but he had my hostel number, and he had also a friend in London. I was given his friend's contact number, but I never contacted his friend. You may think I'm making these far-fetched connections, but I'm getting a feeling, a force, a good one, unseen power from God, of God, has been telling me that this cousin is connected to the Gulf Air crash and the Air Blue crash recently, a few years back in Karachi, when I was in Karachi, sorry. The crash took place in Islamabad, Margala Hills. Fortunately, they couldn't do anything to Emirates Airline, in which I was traveling back and forth to London, to Karachi. While in London, I had this dream that my Imam Mahdi, the Savior, the Lord of the time, had given me this small Quran in my hand. And then I saw the same kind of Quran when I went back to Karachi. My mother gave me a small Quran, and it reminded me of my dream in London. So I used to take that, and my mother said, take it for traveling safety. But you see, it is true, I had called out to my mother twice, saying Amma, Amma, in high fever and pain in my neck, head. And so my mother got it, exactly the same way that I had called my mother. And she told me. So the unseen is true. There is, and also, how shall I say this? The Quran verse that they wanted to scare me out of London, this land, Surah Bani Israel. And I was having these whispers, satanic whispers, when I was in Karachi again in second year LLB during my vacation, that God forbid the whispers were saying, or that feeling that we would give your mummy cancer. And so I was extremely disturbed, and an earthquake came. I didn't get disturbed by the earthquake, but I saw my mother getting up and disturbed. I was more disturbed by the intuition, like someone wants my mummy to get cancer. And so from my room, I was going into my mother's room to rest, to avoid these satanic whispering, intuitive feeling that someone wants to harm my principal, Mrs. Munira Gulzar, and give her, God forbid, cancer. Again, this was to maybe make me so disturbed as to not, to prevent me from going back to London for law,